I'm good. I am trying not to look tired. I feel like I look tired, but
You look
here we are.
fabulous, darling. You look
Well,
fabulous.
thank you. You do too. Hello, gorgeous. Oh
Hello.
gosh, I love your smile.
Aw.
You know
So
that.
welcome to Elegant Conversation with Jacqueline Valdez, and our guest today is Adela Hittell. So let the viewers know a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Adela Hittell, and I am a visual conceptual artist. I started out as a hair and makeup artist and just recently transitioned into a whole new career of life and experience. And so my main focus now is photography and creative directing.
Okay.
I run a nonprofit called Project Human Incorporated, Think. Any way to think about mental and emotional health, and you and I have had plenty of conversations about that. And then my second focus now is fashion design. It's something that I've always loved, and so I'm getting into that. I've worked my butt off the last 4 years. I've won a lot of awards for all these things, and I've just never made it a thing. And so now I'm making it a thing. So here we are.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did you transition into a different career? What pushed you? What motivated you to?
Well, over the last couple of years, I have been really going on this self-discovery journey of trying to heal a lot of trauma that I've had as a child. And so one of the things that through that process, I learned was that I suffer from fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis. So, I'm young, and that has happened, that's hit, and something that for years everybody has said it's, in your head and things like that. And so finally, when I got the diagnosis, I decided that I was going to start transitioning. That was about 2 years ago in July, 3 now, and something like that. And so I've started transitioning that, slowly but surely. And this past year with the quarantine, when I took that break from being consistently working, my body decided that, you know what, you can't do what you used to do.
Yeah.
So now it took me some time to really accept it. It's not that I wasn't preparing for it, but it is something that I didn't want to happen.
Right.
And so when you don't want something to happen and other things happen, you have to readjust. And so that's what I did. And I have been working as a photographer for a long time now. I've worked as a fashion designer for a long time. I've been creative directing and event planning and all kinds of life coaching, event coaching, all kinds of different things, model coaching. I've had a lot of, I've had a lot of good successes through all of this, just because it started out in hair and makeup. And so for me to end that on that, it is such it's good to end it on a high note. Like I've been introduced to so many things. So now I'm just excited to go through for that. And so figure out how I can't do that. Till I can't do that anymore, so there's that.
As far as your fashion, so you're a designer, what inspires you to create stuff?
Humans.
Okay.
Genuinely, it's the essence of a human. I see a story or in fabric. Oh, fabric. Oh my gosh, I could literally go on to fabric forever. But it's like my life. It's how I felt about hair. You've been there because I've been here. So it's how I felt about that. It's how I feel about fabric. I know, right? And it's how I felt about. It's how I feel about fabric. And so a fabric will speak to me, but then that fabric is literally meant for a particular person.
Okay.
And for me, through design, it's what I share with that fabric, and then through that journey of that creation of it, and then that human that wears it, and their piece suit, and their connection, and how it fits, and the story that it tells. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how it genuinely makes me feel.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. And for me to be able to feel and execute at the same time, which is a challenge again with trauma and with things that you can't do at times because it is very blocking. I'm ready for that new chapter because it is very emotional. It is very undertaking of that, and it is an experience that, again, I don't get to experience with myself just now. I get to experience with you, with the human that's in front of that, and how it fits, and how it drapes, and how it feels on them, and what they would want to do in it, and where they would want to go with it. What's the story? What is the story to that?
So what's the story? So would you give a tip to inspire someone who is new, who's wanting to get into the fashion industry, who wants to design, but they just don't know how or where to start?
Literally it starts with where you are right now, like in your room. Get a sewing machine, get whatever fabric you have, old t-shirts, old jeans, whatever, just start learning to work with that.
Okay.
If you don't know your craft, no matter how far you get up to where you're going,
Right.
and you will get far. Like if you can get there, you will get far. But when you get far and the expectations and the requirements are reviewed for you to be able to stand really firmly in what you can do,
Right.
that's where you're gonna come down and come up short. So ensure that you work on your craft right there as much as you can and learn that. And
Okay.
then get with local designers,
Yeah.
get in local fashion shows. That's what I did with,
that.
my both of our, we have a mutual friend, mutual designer, Joseph Lago.
Yeah.
So we,
Shout out.
through him, right? Shout out to
Yeah.
Joseph Lago. He's gonna be happy about that. But I started through, fashion show through with him, and I started by just photographing his designs.
Okay.
And then I went into, he's like, hey, there's a Jacksonville Fashion Magazine's doing a project. You should do this.
Right.
Let's do this together. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did it. And then we both ended up in New York Fashion Week, where he showcased, I photographed, and then we both, so the teamwork.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
Huge.
And especially when you want to get to where you want to go, you have to learn all sides, and you have to be able to think from all the ways. And that's what I want. So it's genuinely knowing your craft and knowing what you want with it, where you want to go with, how and why, what's the story behind you and what you're doing. Because there's always a story, and people like to capture that.
Everyone has a story, and they need to tune into it and then share that story with the world, and then that's what really makes you shine.
It's your voice within.
Yeah.
There's a voice, and there is, right? There's only one you, and
yeah.
And it's hard to get to that, it is. But focusing on some things, like, again, this quarantine has forced us all to do. Focusing on things right now that matter to you the most, that you want the most for your long-term goal is really, and then just doing it is really like key. It's like I had literally, Jackie, like we've had these conversations, like I do lives, like all these things, right? But like for 20 minutes, I had a panic attack. My heart was pounding and doing all these things because like now I'm not here to talk about it. Like I'm here to talk about myself, my story, And so, you do have that fear and those butterflies and that nervousness and the heart beating, and you're going, breathe. Like you've done this 1,000 times.
You can do this. Yeah.
So it's not like, we don't get the best of us. Like it doesn't happen, but you still do it. You still show up, and you still
have to push past that fear.
Push through. Yep, absolutely. And it's not even a fear as much as it is that anxiety.
Yeah.
Like it's just something new and something different. And so it's being on the other side, which is something I've not done before. So it's a huge anxiety for me. I know, right?
So then you've had a hard life, and you've overcome a lot of your hardships, and you've come out on the other side. Is there some advice that you would give someone who's had really difficult and challenging upbringing, and just to let them know that there is another path and it's not their only story?
The number one thing I learned over this last 5 years is breath. First and foremost, breathe.
Wow.
Like understand that the ability to breathe means you exist.
Yeah.
Like the ability to breathe, means you exist. And if you exist, that means that you're like, and this is also paraphrasing another quote that means to me too so much, but it means that what you have to offer in life and what your voice is, like it isn't finished. Every moment you can take a breath. It doesn't matter at what age, at what point, at what circumstance, or what environmental, like what financial, it doesn't matter, right? True. That detail doesn't matter. But what matters is that like when you breathe, you exist. And if you exist, you can move. And if you can move, you can make things happen. If you can make things happen, you can create, you can tell a story. So breathe. And when you can't breathe, it's okay not to breathe, but it's okay for you to sit down for a second and go, I can't breathe, and admit that to yourself, and then decide, whether you're going to slow down a little bit or you're going to push through it hardcore or whatever that. Again, the moment is to move. Eventually, I'm 33 years in. I've survived a war and a genocide, something I've never wanted to admit in my life.
Wow.
Genuinely like this, I've never wanted to admit it.
Right.
Because it means being labeled as victim, as all these things, right? Yeah. When to me, it was a time and moment in my life in which happened in a circumstance that I had no control over.
Yeah.
But what I did have control over was how I reacted.
Yeah.
And what I decided to do was just react and live. Like at
Yeah.
this moment in time, I'm living. I can't do anything other than live. And I have to admit and acknowledge that pain and that past. And I have to recognize that that did happen.
Yeah.
And it's not for labeling. It's not. And that's that's how you heal. And that's what I'll tell anybody that's going through anything. Acknowledge yourself.
Okay.
Acknowledge the pain. Acknowledge every emotion you feel.
And
because
it's okay to accept what you've been through and not judge yourself or let any energies of other people, you know, judging you. That it's okay, you've been through that, and you know, you'll be a better person, and you're meant to do something, and you're meant to inspire other people, and not to be hard on yourself. And like you said, just breathe. I feel like right now with COVID, there's a lot of heaviness, and people are just having a hard time really just breathing and feeling the weight on their chest.
It's like that word "just" that we talk about.
Yeah.
Just breathe. Well, it's right, and it's breathe. No, just. And again, I even just said it. I even just said it. But it needs to be justified when it's to be said, and it's not. It's breathe.
Yeah.
Period. End of discussion. Breathe. And then when you breathe, your brain gets the oxygen it needs. Your heart gets to slow down. Like there's so much benefit physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just from that breath, that if you understand the science behind the breath, right, you can understand how it affects your mental stability, how it affects your psychology, like your psyche, your spiritual, you can understand because then you can understand that when you don't breathe, something's off.
Yeah.
So when you take a breath, you can, it clears.
Yeah.
It's clarity. And you don't have to call it, you know, if you don't want to meditate and have that whole scary thing of that, you don't have to, but breathe.
Yeah. I love that.
It genuinely is as simple as that. And it's something that we don't promote enough of. It's the free thing. Yeah. Like I love the Lorex because that's what that's what brought that inspiration to me. Air is free.
Yeah.
And yet he's selling it to people because they need to breathe fresh air. And it's like, go outside and breathe fresh air. You know, like like that responsibility so to breathe. So
it's very
it's a process.
So your nonprofit that you started, how long ago did you start that? And then tell me a little bit more about it.
Guys, I get emotional, so I get stuffy and sniffly with my sinuses. It's not COVID, okay? FYI, I just thought I should announce that. As we are here and I'm sniffling, right? Like, we have allergies. Both Jackie and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I needed to take my Zyrtec today because my ears plugged up a little bit. This is real life.
I had to take so much like Sinex and like just because I couldn't breathe, and the weather is terrible. Well, I started my nonprofit 3 years ago, actually, and it was my own 30th birthday present to myself that I was going to do something for myself. And I have been in therapy for years. I have been trying to figure out a way how to talk about, again, this trauma and all these things. And it was costing me so much money that I didn't have. So then I decided that I was paying people to talk. I was paying people to just blah. So I started creating my own mental health days where I would go to the woods and just blah. And then I'd invite some friends and we would go to the woods and just blah. And, you know, come back and feel better, or to the beach, or just, again, breathe with the nature.
Right.
And I figured out that's literally what we as humans need. We need the ability to breathe. So the purpose of my nonprofit is to provide that education and that, you know, open up that communication of how do we start thinking about our own selves and we've talked about this, that we're just, or the way we view a certain perspective. It's literally about looking at it from a different perspective. And it's hard. It's a long step and long road to do so. But when it's done, you come here 3 years later and go, man, all I needed to do was vent, like, and complain. And that's so wrong in the world, because you're not, like, you should always be grateful, and you know, you should, and I am always, but that doesn't mean that, again, those moments and those things that you're going through aren't valid enough for you to have somebody or something, or just to go,
Yeah.
and feel that way. And not be judged for it, and not be want to be put into a mental institution for it, and not be, for these things that are in there, for these
Yeah.
feelings, because you don't know each other's lives.
Well, so, and I think that's the thing too, is people are scared to talk about their mental illness, or they're scared to talk about their abusive relationships because they don't want to be judged, or they don't know where they're going to go to, or they don't feel like they have someone that can listen to them, and they feel lost.
Absolutely. And then even if they do go to therapy, even if they can't, again, to afford therapy,
Yeah.
my insurance never, covered it. So I
Yeah.
had to pay out of pocket. And at some point, you
It's
can't pay
not
out
cheap.
of pocket anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So there's ways that we can show the community and the world that
Yeah.
you can go outside and breathe for free and
Yeah.
express.
Yeah, that's true. So then you also do photography, which you've done before, but now you're exploring it further, correct? So what is your favorite
Yes.
things to photograph?
I love I love creative portraits.
Okay.
That's one of my things that I love. I just love being able to get into the eyes and the mind of a human. My other thing is I love photographing brands and designers and upcoming models because I get to coach, I get to work through. And you and I have had ours, which, by the way, I get time now to catch up on all my
Yes,
stuff.
we did a
So
photo
boom, boom,
shoot.
boom.
Oh my God, like I think a year ago now, and I'm so excited for those pictures. That was, I think,
Dude,
like
my
the second
models that
time
are
my
being
hair went blonde, something like that.
Dude, my models that I've done work with from like 3 years ago are just getting like some of their work posted now, and I'm like, you guys, I appreciate your patience, but it was worth the patience. And it's one of those things that
Yeah.
that to me is photography. Is I won't share in a way that I don't feel or that I don't have the time to spend to really connect with you as the human that I'm
Right.
working with,
Right.
because I can throw an edit. Okay, I can throw an edit and make it look good,
Right.
but so can you filter it, okay?
Right.
Like you can filter it too. But then there's a way to come in and actually connect with you in your eyes and the way your chin
Yeah.
falls or the way your shape of your, like there's just little nuances that I take for myself, that I take the time to actually look at and understand, because
Right.
then I can go into and be like, wow, that's that human.
Right.
Let me show them what I see.
Okay.
That's why it's taking me longer too, because photography was very new to me.
Yeah.
I'm only 2 years in. Like I thought I've been
Wow.
longer in, but I'm only 2 years in, 3 years in, really 3 years in now. So like honestly, but the work I've done, I've wanted to do the best I could,
Right.
and never wanted to do anything that wasn't
Right.
up to par or up to my own want or standard. So I never wanted to come out like,
yeah. So then you've been behind the camera also modeling, and now you're, you're in front of the camera, and now you're behind the camera. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got into the photography world just because I became in front of the camera. Somebody saw something in me that I didn't see in me.
Uh-huh. Oh.
And they showed me something, right? And they showed me something that I took full control over.
Right.
And then after them seeing that, I saw more. And then when other people couldn't deliver the more that they were supposed to, and this is going to sound condescending, I promise you guys, but it's not. But when you couldn't deliver the job that you're supposed to, and I am one of those people, like, you say you do your job,
Yeah.
and when you can't deliver to your job, I'll do the job.
Right.
You want it done, you do it right.
Yeah.
And so, and that's how I picked up the camera. And here I am now, just,
yeah.
I've learned so much. I am, and I've wanted to take that time to learn it, because I didn't want to, it's not about my work. That's what it's about, my designing too. That's how it was about my hair.
Okay.
Like, it's not about my work.
It's about the person.
How did you feel? Do you know what I mean? How did you feel when we did your hair?
Empowered.
So like, and that experience, right? And that experience, right? Like we had a good experience every time we met, and we had a good intellectual and valuable conversation. And that's what I value.
Yeah.
That's what I want out of everything that I do. And if I can't have it, then again, what I want the most in the world is to be influential in a conversation. And if I can't do that in every moment of my life, then I'm not fulfilling what I want to do.
No. Yeah. So then, is there something that you would tell people, like a tip, I guess, that you would give from being in front of the camera to behind the camera, to maybe some of the models that you wish you would have been told when you were modeling?
So, quick tip for my models, okay? Let me tell you this really quick.
Model
I
tips.
auditioned, listen, I auditioned for America's Next Top Model years ago, okay? When they came to Jacksonville, I believe it was,
Okay.
years ago, okay?
Nice.
Right, I auditioned. I was young. Look, I had all the criteria,
Young and
okay?
sassy.
Right, okay. Well, I didn't have a full confidence, but I had a lot more, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was very upfront about who I was even at then. I was like, I'm not a drama person. Like, you come at me in some way, like, I'll end the drama real quick. And so I knew that they didn't like that because, you know me. I'm like, boom, boom, done.
Yeah.
So, and so I was like that with all of them too anyway. But they told me I was too short and that I was too big and that, right. And so that I didn't fit.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay, it is a petite and small,
Right.
like, hello, but whatever, right? So fast forward years later,
Right.
Also what a lot of people don't know about me, and this is a tidbit, like I'm super revealing, but what a lot of people don't know about me is that, like, during that time too, I used to have natural big boobies, okay? Like big breasts.
Okay.
So since I was a child, since I was in 7th grade, it naturally developed, and after having my kid, it took a lot of toll on my back, on a whole lot of things. It was health, a lot of reasons. I didn't have my confidence. Like you would think I would. I had no confidence. Was very subconscious.
Okay.
I absolutely hated my body. I was in a wreck. Like I went through the whole stages of everything during that period.
Wow.
And then after having my son, 9 years ago, I decided to get rid of them. And it was the best decision I ever made, right? So fast forward like 4 or 5 years later, here I am getting in front of a camera, 6 years later, in front of a camera, learning my body.
Yeah. Wow.
So the thing to tell you guys is, again, I've been turned away from America's Next Top Model. I had been like all these things. I hated all these things prior to something. And here I am. I'm in 33 now. People think I'm 20. This is great.
Yeah.
But I'm 33 and I own it. And I model, and I just made it to Italian Vogue's social pages because in my head, 15 years ago, I saw a picture on Vogue that I said I wanted it to be.
Wow.
And a year ago, we did the shot because I was like, I want to do it because I'm part of this Parachute Goddess project with somebody mutual we know with Embrace Beauty Magazine, Leilana Hurley, which, by the way, just found that out. That was mutual known. And so I looked at it and I said, I want Vogue. And a year later, we get that we are approved. So don't give up. The thing is to, like, seriously, if you feel it, everybody around you will tell you that you're crazy. You are insane. You shouldn't do all these things. Don't do all these things. But if you truly want it because you know that it makes you happy and you want to learn, but you have to want to learn for yourself and grow on this because it's a hard journey.
True.
People are cruel. People are not nice. Stay firm to who you are, because even if they look at you and say you're an asshole, pardon me, you blah, 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 all these things, okay?
Yeah.
You can go, you're right, I earned it.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can think of me however, but you're not at my level.
Well,
you
and
can't
I feel
produce
like
the work.
some of the most successful and creative people do stuff that's outside the box, and they create their own paths.
You have to. Yeah. And again, and it comes down to what your last guest, I forgot her name now, but what your last guest said, don't be hard on yourself. I mean, she talked about motherhood and these things, but like in general, don't be hard on yourself because you are literally growing.
Yeah.
You're literally growing and grow.
Yeah.
Water your seed and grow. Patience. Oh, it's the one virtue none of us are aware of, but we need to learn. Yeah. And it's something that I am so thankful I'm learning.
Yeah.
Patience, because now again, a year later, I mean, like, I didn't even think.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, no, right. And you're like, holy crap, how? Yeah. Because I wanted it. Yeah. Even my husband, Adela, that's kind of crazy. I did it.
I'm doing it. I'm going for
it. Right, but here you go. Now I get to go. You know?
Yeah.
Let your work speak for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't ever do this.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. They say sometimes to not let people know what your next step is and just do it.
Execute.
Like Nike
What
said.
are they going to do? Right. What are they going to do?
Yeah. True.
They're either going to accept it or reject it.
Yeah. Very true. So what do you want to be remembered by?
That I have influenced every conversation that I've had with every human being I possibly could have. Like, genuinely in a positive way.
Yeah.
One of my worst experiences in life is that I allowed a human being to have such a negative connection, like such a negative interaction with me that I allowed them to put a knife in my hands.
Yeah.
I allowed it, right?
Oh,
And so through all of this is why I am here, like because of that moment. And so I've just like I've made a choice to never ever be that human. And so in order not to be that human, I have to be knowledgeable about myself enough to provide value to you or to whoever I have. Because if I don't, then again, I'm not fulfilling and living to what I want to be. Like I don't care for the flash, I don't, you know me, I don't care for the
yeah.
flash volume, none of that stuff because like it doesn't matter. But your time and my time together, like I wouldn't trade for the world. You know what I mean? No matter like we had so many laughs
Yeah.
and so many good things, and
Definitely.
that to me matters the most. And if I can't have that with almost every human I possibly can, then we just move past. Like we're just not meant to be at this particular time, and that's what I've learned.
Okay.
It's just not the timing for each human.
Right. Wow.
Don't think of it as humans have burned you, have done something in the past wrong for you, and you're those things, because it's a lesson I've had to learn. Think of it as it wasn't the time or the season for you two to grow together. You weren't a companion plant.
Yeah.
Someday you might be, because you might evolve to something else and, become a hybrid to something, but you just want a companion plant. And that way you eliminate the anger and the hatred and the things that you both feel for each other, or you at least feel for someone else.
Right.
Because of whatever.
Oh.
You just want a companion. And again, that's how I want to be remembered.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Again,
so much
I'm a
for the
sob
interview.
story, guys.
I could talk to you all day here. Was there anything else that you wanted to say to the viewers before we go?
Just follow me on my Adelaville right here, Adela H. Jax. I have a website, adelahittell.com. We have the thinking.org for Project Human, or go to our social medias on like Facebook and things like that, Project Human Incorporated. And then be kind to yourself and be kind to someone else, because right now, and breathe, because that's all we have.
Yeah.
And if like that's free. That's absolutely free. Breath and kindness is free. And it's okay.
Yes.
It sucks, but it's okay. Because again, here's the thing. We could be Lebanon right now. Like there's places that is just so much more detrimental with the life and the things that are going on. I'm not saying COVID isn't that, just on top of that. So breathe.
Breathe.
Be kind.
Okay.
Do your thing.
I love it.
Love you.
I love it. Thank you, girls, so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Bye, guys.
Of course. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.